Done?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, all of you. Today, we are going to start with a very beautiful poem. In fact, all the poems included in the +2 class are amazing in their own way. So this poem is really a very special poem. The name of the poem is The Road Not Taken. It's written by the poet. The name of the poet is Robert Frost. Robert Frost was an American poet. He is also called as the Poet of America. Children, the Poet of America, this title has been given to him by the government of America only. He was a very popular American poet. He was, the full name of this person is Robert Lee Frost. He was born in 1874 and died in 1963. So he lived for a long life for about 89 years. He was born in San Francisco, USA on March 26, 1874, and he breathed his last on 29th January 1963 in Boston, Massachusetts, USA. Children, San Francisco is in California, and California is in USA. Boston is in Massachusetts, and that is in USA. He was born in USA and died in USA. He was also very popular in India also. Our first Prime Minister, that is Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru. Our first Prime Minister, Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru, his favorite poet was also Robert Frost. He was very fond of reading the poetry written by Robert Frost. There are many famous poems written by Robert Frost. One is this one, The Road Not Taken, then Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. Children, this is a very popular poem. The last 4 lines of this poem are quite familiar with everyone. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. These are the favorite lines of late Prime Minister of India, Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru also. Children, this poem has been written by Robert Frost in 1915, but it was published in 1916 for the first time. He wrote a book of poetry named as Mountain Interval. Mountain Interval is the name of the book. Name of the book. It's a collection of poems. In this collection of poems, the poem The Road Not Taken was also included by the poet Robert Frost. It was published in 1916. The poem was written in 1915, but it was published in this book in 1916. Children, you must have read the poetry written by William Wordsworth. William Wordsworth is known as the poet of nature. He was the high priest of nature. Similarly, Robert Frost, an American poet. William Wordsworth was from England. He is a Britisher. He is an English poet. Robert Frost is an American poet. Both the poets are very much similar so far as nature is concerned. Both of them, I mean Robert Frost and William Wordsworth, they both were very fond of nature poetry. They were very interested in writing about nature. But there is a difference also. William Wordsworth used to write poetry related to nature. He used to talk about nature as he saw, as he used to see nature. Then only, I mean, in that way only he used to show in his poetry. But so far as Robert Frost is concerned, he goes very deep into the nature and brings some message. He always gets some message from nature and tries to give it to the reader. So this is the specialty of this writer, Robert Frost. The beauty of the poetry lies in different poetic techniques used by the writer. He uses the technique of personification, alliteration, rhyme scheme is also good. He makes use of similes, metaphors, and other poetic techniques are also there. A special poetic technique used by this person is symbolism and imagery. Symbolism means there is a hidden meaning in the poetry. You will see on the surface level, the poems are very simple. You will see the poet is narrating just a simple incident, but when you go deep into the meaning of that incident, meaning of that story, you will find so many interesting lessons of life. Some amazing lessons of life will be there. And you can easily make the image of this poem. The poetry written by Robert Frost, it has a lot of imagery also. You can easily make the image of the story in your mind. So this is the difference between Robert Frost and William Wordsworth. William Wordsworth used to talk about nature as he saw it, but Robert Frost goes deep into the nature and brings out some interesting message to convey to the readers. This is the thing which makes this poet a special one. William Wordsworth, you must have read so many poems written by William Wordsworth, like Daffodils, The World is Too Much with Us, Tintin Abbey. There are many other poems which are very popular, and they all are related to nature. In the same way, Robert Frost has also written so many interesting poems like The Road Not Taken, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, The Gift Outright, Mending Wall. So many other poems are also there which are related to nature, but he does not, he means Robert Frost does not confine himself to nature only. He goes deep into the nature and gives a very useful message, which is not useful for the readers only, which is useful for the entire uh, the people of the entire world. Uh, so this is something about Robert Frost. You know, Robert Frost, he lived a long life of 89 years, and during this lifespan, he got so many interesting prizes as well. He was awarded by the government of America many times. He was awarded by other people also. For some time in his life, he lived in England also, in New England. But in 1912, he moved to England. Then after 3 years, he came back to America. And in these 3 years, he started writing poetry. So initially, he started writing poetry in England. Then he came back to America. He lost his father at a very young age, so he saw his life from a very close angle. You know, when your parents are not there with you, especially your father is not there with you, then you have to bear so many responsibilities, and ultimately a person becomes mature. So he also became mature at an early age because he lost his father, and then he decided to make a career in poetry. So, children, this is something about Robert Frost. Now, let's talk about the poem. Before we talk something about the poem, you all know we are in the habit of reciting the poem twice. In the first recitation, you will try to see the rhyme scheme of the poem. And when I recite the poem for the second time, we will try to guess the meaning of the poem. Afterwards, I will explain the poem in detail, line by line, word by word. And of course, we will point out different poetic techniques, different symbols. Many things are there which make this poem very interesting, which make this poem very useful for us. So let's start with the first recitation of the poem. This time, try to see the rhyme scheme of the poem. Page number 116, poem number 7, The Road Not Taken, written by Robert Frost. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both, and be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth, then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that the passing there had warned them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay in leaves, no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Children, if you look at the rhyme scheme of the poem, there is a very clear rhyme scheme in this poem. Let's discuss the rhyme scheme. See the first line, two roads diverged in a yellow wood. So the first word A, then second and sorry I could not travel both. Then B, and B, one traveler long I stood. So again A, and looked down one as far as I could. Again A, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Both matches with undergrowth. Children, this is the rhyme scheme of this poem. The poem has been divided into 4 stanzas, and each stanza has this rhyme scheme. The first line, I mean, the last word of first line is matching with the last word of third and fourth line. Last word of second line is matching with the last word of fifth line. A, B, A, A, B. This is the rhyme scheme of the poem. In all the stanzas, this rhyme scheme follows. I mean, I'm not saying A, B, A, A, B. I mean, the next word will be C, D, C, C, D. Then E, F, E, E, F, G, H, G, G, H, like this. So this is the rhyme scheme of the poem. I hope the first recitation is useful for you. I hope the rhyme scheme is clear to you.
Yes,
So
sir.
there, it's possible
Yes,
that there
sir.
can be a question on rhyme scheme. Children, first rhyme scheme, first after first recitation, we have come to know that there is some pattern in the rhyme scheme. A, B, A, A, B, this is the rhyme scheme of the first stanza. Similarly, the other stanzas are also having the same type of rhyme scheme. Now I'll read the poem again. This time try to guess the meaning of the poem. Page number 116, poem number 7, The Road Not Taken, written by Robert Frost. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both, and be one traveler long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth, then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, I though as for that the passing there had warned them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay in leaves, no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in the woods, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. If you try to guess the meaning of the poem, you can clearly see the poet is telling some story. He is passing from a jungle, he is passing from a forest, He's passing from a wood, and he reaches a point where he's confused because two ways were there, whether to go to left side or right side. He was very confused. But he kept on thinking, thinking, and thinking before taking the decision. And finally, in the last stanza, he takes one decision and goes there, goes to one direction because he cannot travel both the directions. It's a very simple story, but in this simple story, we get so many symbols, we get so many images, and we get a deep message through this poem. Let's start the poem word by word, sentence by sentence. Children, this is a favorite poem of Mr. Javish also. Javish sir likes this poem very much, and he is able to recite the poem without looking at the book. I have recited the poem from the book, but he is able to recite the poem without looking at the book. He has learned this poem. Shweta, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can we continue?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's start the poem line
10
by
minutes
line,
are left,
word
sir.
by word. The title of the poem, The Road Not Taken. Here, road.
1,
Here, road is used as a metaphor.
3.
Here, road is not a road. A road is compared to life,
For not seeing.
or you
Will be
can say
game.
choice.
Showing devices not
Okay.
seen.
So here, the road not taken, the path not taken, the path of life. So there is a metaphor in the title also. The road not taken. Road is compared to life. The life not taken. There is a person is always one decision away from a totally different life. So this one step away is called the road taken or the road not taken. So whatever choice you make in your life, whatever option you accept in your life, whatever path of life you have in your life, this will decide what type of future, what type of fate you are going to have. If you are choosing something good for you, obviously the output will also be good. If the input is great, the output will also be great. So it all depends on the choices a person makes in his life. It's very important. This poem, The Road Not Taken, also tells us something about choice only, how to make a choice, and what to do after we have made a choice. This is a very simple poem, but the message is very deep. In this poem also the poet is describing the beautiful scene of nature, but the thing is, uh, he's not describing only poem. Through the poem, he's trying to give a very important message. So let's get started. I hope the title of the poem is clear to everyone.
Yes, sir.
He was such a famous poet of America. He's also called Poet of America, and uh, Fitzgerald Kennedy, John Fitzgerald Kennedy. He was the 35th president of America. He was the 35th president of America, and he called this person. He called Robert Frost to his office to recite the poem. He went to his office and he recited the poem, The Gift, outright. So I have already told you he is not only popular among the common people, he was also popular with the leaders also, like Jawaharlal Nehru, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, and many other people were there who were very fond of his poetry. Let's start the poem now. The first line, two roads. Roads, I have already told you. Two roads. Children, the poet is describing a beautiful scene. Suppose this is a road. right? This is a road that traveler is going. One traveler is going, he reaches here. He reaches one point, and what happens from this point? One road was going to this side, one road was going to this side, and one road was going to this side. Okay, so the poet is at this point. He is going somewhere, right? He is going somewhere. Just imagine, children, this is the imagery. Just imagine that you are going somewhere and you reach a point, and what is happening from that point? One road is going to left side and one road is going to right side. You are confused what to do. Here the poet wants to say two roads. Two roads mean two life. This road shows life, or you can say choice, whatever choice you are going to make. You people will also reach this point many times. At every point, children, we have a choice. At every point, we have a choice. One more thing I wanted to share you about this writer, Robert Frost. Uh, One thing I have already told you, he talks about nature deeply. Another thing is he takes the example from simple people. He uses the language of simple people. He uses the location of uh, villages, rural life, or you can say life of not urban life, but rural life. He will take the example of a jungle, he will take the example of a forest, or he will take the example of a simple village. He does not talk about modern urban life. He talks about rural life, and he uses simple language of common man. This is also the speciality of Robert Frost. So let's come back to the poem. I have told you the poet is at this point. So there are two roads, road number 1 and road number 2. So road number 1 and road number 2, these two things, these are not roads actually. Through the example of these two roads, he is telling us that in life also we have choices. At each and every stage of life, we have two or more than two choices. Two roads diverged. Diverged mean divided. In the first line only, you can see a beautiful metaphor is used by the poet.
Yes.
Road is compared to life. Road is compared to the choices made by a person in life. So this is the example of metaphor. Children, in your life also you will see some stages where you have to make choice, and that will be a very important decision, because everything will depend on your single decision. For example, you are when you pass your 10th class, you had a choice whether to take arts, medical, non-medical, or commerce, right? Some people uh, chose non-medical, some people had medical, and some people opted for commerce stream. Now their life will also be different. Commerce children will go into the field of commerce, medical children will pursue medical studies, and non-medical will have a different type of study, a different type of career, a different type of life, right? So after plus 2, again you will have a choice. After plus 2, whether to go to engineering field, or whether to go for civil services, or whether to leave the studies because of one reason or the other. There can be so many other things, which so many other factors will be there in your life, which will decide your career, which will decide your path of life. Again, what will I mean what will decide your course of life? The choice. The choices you make in your life will decide what type of life you are going to have. If you want to be in the comfort zone only, then you will never have any growth in your life. If you are challenging yourself every day, if you are giving a new challenge to yourself daily, then obviously you will grow, and you will keep on growing. Then you will be much better than the people who never challenge their limits, who never challenge their life, who never come out of the comfort zone. So it all depends on a person whether to have a good life or whether to have a hopeless life. One thing is sure, children, there is no growth inside the comfort zone. You have to come out of the comfort zone to grow. Otherwise, you will just pass your days. You will not be able to live your life as you want it to be. I hope this much thing is clear to everyone.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's continue. Children, this is such a meaningful poem. I mean, just 20 lines are there in this poem. And you can have a debate for as many hours you can, because the meaning is very deep. There is a next poem on his blindness. That is also one of the best poems I have ever read, written by John Milton. We'll see. You will really like that poem. This poem will also be liked by everyone because it has a very deep message to give to the people, to the readers. The next poem is also one of the wonderful poems written by John Milton. So let's continue. The road not taken. Two paths, two different paths are there, two different roads, two different choices are there. The poet stops there. He is confused what to do. He is confused because ultimately, whatever choice he makes, it is going to make a huge difference in his life. That's why he stops there. He is not moving just like that only. He is thinking. And you will see he takes a lot of time thinking only before making a final decision. He look at both the roads, two roads. Children, in life, not only choices are made by a person. I want to tell you, whatever choice you want to make will depend on the circumstances of a person also. Sometimes a person is not able to decide a career, or he is not able to decide a life he wants, but the circumstances do that work. The circumstances decide whether to take first road or second road. So whatever type of life you want to have, your circumstances will also decide, and whether you want to come out of the comfort zone or you want to be inside the comfort zone, this factor will also decide what type of life you want to have. Let's start the first line. Two roads diverged. Diverged means separated, divided, and went to different directions. I have already shown you. This is the place, this is the point where the poet is standing. On one side, one road, another side, second road. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood. Yellow wood. So, children, yellow would mean yellow jungle or yellow forest. When do we have the yellow leaves? We have the yellow leaves in the autumn season. In the autumn season. So it is very much clear. I have told you the beauty of this poem lies in its symbolism, in its imagery. Just imagine you are passing